welcome to video number 1 in the Spooky Sandy's Reviews horror movie spectacular, whatever you want to call it. I will most likely work on this introduction, or not. But anyway, this video is going to be talking about movies that start with the letter A, B, C, D, and E, in case anyone doesn't know their alphabet. So the first movie I'm going to be talking about is As Above, So Below. This movie came out in 2014, and I don't believe it got much notice back then. I still don't think it has got much attention 5 years later, which is quite unfortunate because it's actually a really enjoyable movie. It's not horror in your face, but it is creepy. It does have a nice story. The actors in this movie aren't very well known either. You have Peter Weeks, Ben Feldman, Edwin Hodge, Francis Civil. They are really great cast in this movie. They have really good performances, but I just don't see them in much. So ignoring the fact the movie is not very well known, in fact the actor is not very well known, it's still a really enjoyable movie and I really enjoyed it. So it goes for 1 hour and 33 minutes. It's a short duration as are most horror movies, and in this one the first hour doesn't really have much going on. It's kind of building the story, building the tension, but not much truly happens. So it kind of surrounds the story of the Philosopher's Stone. Now I know when you hear that you instantly think Harry Potter, but this is more going back to the lore and kind of the mythology of kind of more of the medicine side of what it does, the archaeological side. It goes into more of that rather than the ever-giving life that Harry Potter did. Of course it brings it up, but it's just more into the history side as well. So when the characters do come under danger, it happens all extremely quick, and whatever happens with the characters, there is a reason for what happens to them. It's kind of the sin they had in life and the sin they didn't really recognize in life. So basically, As Above, So Below is representing hell. So it goes into the catacombs under Paris, and each stage of the catacombs represents 9 stages of hell. So number 1 is limbo, number 2 is lust, number 3 is gluttony, number 4 is greed, number 5 is wrath, number 6 is hearsay, number 7 is violence, number 8 is fraud, number 9 is treachery. So basically once they get to kind of level 6, level 7, that's when everything starts going really, really bad for everyone. So it goes for 1 hour and 30 minutes. The first hour is basically just storyline, getting to know the characters, explain it. And the last 30 minutes is just a lot of gore, a lot of just kind of the characters losing their mind a little bit, but it's representing those stages of hell. So you don't have to be religious nut. You don't even have to like religion to enjoy this movie. It's really enjoyable. And then once you do your own research about kind of what they are going through, it makes it even more interesting. The first time I saw the movie, I actually really loved it. And then the second time I watched it, knowing that they are meant to be represented through the stages of hell, I found it more interesting. So if you haven't seen As Above, So Below, I highly recommend this movie. It's been out for 5 years, and I just feel like it needs more attention than what it is getting. So the second movie I'm going to be talking about is for B, so that is Bait. Again, this movie isn't really popular. This came out in 2012, so already it's 7 years old, and I feel like either not many people like it or not many people remember it. So this is more of an Australian film. The cast is mainly Australian and Chinese. The majority of the movie was filmed in Australia, and then they did the post-production in China. So it's a very basic film. There are a bunch of people in a shopping center. A tsunami hits. They get trapped in the shopping center with a great white 12-foot shark. So it's a very, very simple premise storyline. The characters are very simple characters, but they are believable characters. Growing up in Australia, living in Australia, these are kind of the people I would run into on a normal basis if I lived near the beach. So the performances are quite great in it. You've got Xavier Samuel, Shani Vincent, Julie McMahon, Phoebe Token, Martin Sachs, Lincoln Lewis. So all of these people have gone on to do bigger and better films since this movie and are more well known for other movies other than Bait. Shani Vincent is actually in another movie I'm going to be talking about later on in this spooky series. So the performances, there's nothing wrong with the performances at all. The storyline is really enjoyable. It's just very basic. They use animatronic sharks, so while the sharks don't look the fantastic thing, they actually did put a lot of work into creating these sharks and creating this kind of atmosphere, into creating this kind of believable situation. So the storyline is decent. The duration is really good. It's an hour and 33 minutes. It gets straight to the point. It does not hold back on the gore. Within the first 5 minutes, there's already a death that kind of shows why the characters kind of have tension between them when they get back together. So there is kind of like a love story in it, but they explain it. It doesn't take away from the main story at all. So yeah, it does. There's a few jump scares. It gets gory quick. It gets deadly quick. It does not take its time messing around. The characters are just everyday people. It's a really good movie. I really loved Bait. It did come out in 3D. I'm not sure if you can still watch it in 3D, but that's when 3D was popular. So I feel like they spent a lot of their budget creating this 3D movie that was sadly a flop in Australia. In Australia, it only earned $800,000, but in China, it actually earned $24 million. So it did fantastic in Australia. In China, it did badly in Australia, but it does still have that kind of following. So if you haven't seen Bait, if you're interested in checking out more shark-based movies, if you're interested in just checking out Australian movies, I do recommend Bait. It's very similar to the movie Crawl that just came out this year. So if you enjoyed Crawl, Bait is definitely a movie I would highly recommend checking out. Next movie is for C, and that is Crimson Peak. So that is not your typical horror scare, jump scare type movie. Crimson Peak works more on the creepy factor of the ghost, of this color imagery they use. So this movie came out in 2015, so about 4 years ago now. It goes for 2 hours. It didn't do fantastically well at the cinema. It was promoted quite a bit just because of the fact Tom Hiddleston was in it, but I just feel like it was kind of hit and miss with a lot of audiences. Del Toro is the director, and while he does such a fantastic job with this movie, there's a lot of his other movies that are quite big misses with the audience that would go for this movie. Like, he was the director for Hellboy 1 and 2, and the kind of people that enjoy that movie wouldn't exactly like this movie, and the people that like this movie wouldn't like that. So I feel like it's weird with the audiences he goes for. Obviously, he just won for Best Picture with The Shape of Water, so his movies are constantly changing of what he's working on. Crimson Peak is nothing like The Shape of Water, but the color imagery that he uses, it's a main focus in all of his movies. Sorry. So this movie stars Maya Wasikowska, Tom Hiddleston, Charlie Hunnam, Jessica Chastain, and Jim Beaver. So there is a fantastic cast in this. The performances are absolutely incredible. This is a timepiece, so this takes place in 1887 to 1901. They don't give you an exact date, but that's roughly when it is taking place. So while it is a bit gory, it's more creepy than anything, and it's more imagery than anything. There is one particular thing I didn't pick up on the first time watching it, but they actually use furniture as a way to show kind of what the character is going through. So when they're sitting in a chair, if the chair is massive, or they're showing a huge background of the piece of furniture, is showing that the character is feeling weak, they're feeling tender. But if they're only showing a tiny piece of the furniture, or the character sitting on a smaller piece of furniture, they're showing that the character is now strong, they are determined. And it was such a small part of imagery that I just did not see in the first viewing that I really appreciate upon second, third, fourth, etc. viewing, because I have watched this movie quite a bit now, and there's so much imagery that I missed the first time around that I'm really glad that I'm starting to pick up on now. They use color, obviously. If there is a red scene or someone is wearing red, they are the ones that are associated with ghosts. They are seeing the ghost. And another important thing is the ghosts aren't hurting Edith. They are warning her about Crimson Peak. They are warning her about these characters. And while I'm not generally huge on spoilers, I don't like movies that throw the foreshadowing into your face. It actually works really different for this movie. So this is a spoiler if you haven't seen the movie. But when Edith is talking about the book she's writing, she says, ghosts play a role in this book, in this film, but they are not the central theme. It's basically a love story with ghosts. And this is what that movie is. Ghosts might be a huge part of the promotion, but they are not a central theme. They are not what Del Toro was throwing at the audience. The story was the main focus, and Ghost was just kind of the backstory to move the story along. So it's a really, really good movie. It's fantastic imagery. The performances are fantastic. The set design, the makeup, it's just all incredible. So if you have not seen Crimson Peak, I highly recommend checking it out. Especially suitable for the spooky season if you are into ghosts. They are not your typical ghosts. They're kind of these red skeletons. So they are kind of creepy and different look. But it's just a fantastic movie that I do strongly suggest checking out. So the next movie is The Descent. So this is kind of similar to As Above, So Below, just in the fact they are underground a lot with this movie. So The Descent came out in 2005. This is the oldest movie I'm talking about at the moment. It's quite a popular movie when it came out, to the fact they made a sequel. I don't think the sequel did very well. I honestly didn't see the sequel because I just felt like it was a movie that didn't need or shouldn't have had a sequel. So I might eventually watch it, but at the moment I'm just talking about this one. So the cast is basically all females. They briefly have a male at the start, but this is a female-driven movie. Their performances is fantastic. Each character is different, but they are strong female characters. They kind of all go through their own mentality, own weakness in this movie. It's a very basic storyline. There isn't many jump scares. They are all underground. It's creepy to begin with, just the fact that you are trapped underground and you can hear sounds, you can't see much. Like, it's scary to begin with. You don't really need the jump scares. The more thing that is kind of common theme in horror movies, but definitely common in this, is the need to survive. So it kind of gets scary when they all want to survive. They're all kind of, do I trust you? Like, could you have saved that person, or did you let them die? Like, did you know they were down here? So it's kind of just that inner mentality of, I want to survive and I don't trust you enough for that to happen. So it's just kind of that inner working. This was probably one of the first movies that really shocked me with their false ending. So if you haven't seen this, I'm very sorry, that is a spoiler. But it gives you a false ending, kind of, she escaped and she's going, but really she's not. She's still in the cave. and the movie ends and you still don't know whether she got out or not. The fact there is a sequel, I'm guessing she did get out, but when you first watch this movie and you don't know that fact, you don't know whether she survived or not. And it just leaves it with such a depressing ending, because you're like, well, is she staying down there and she's going insane, or is she getting out? So, while it's a very basic storyline, there's not many jump scares, just that fact, it makes it a scary movie. There is these other monsters in there that are attacking them, which kind of adds to the suspense, because even if she can survive, like her friends trying to kill her, she might not survive the crawlers, and then if she can survive them, she might not survive dehydration or not eating. Like, it's just, there's a lot going on for this person. So the crawlers' appearance, they're creepy. They are very creepy. And the thing I found fascinating about this is they actually kept the appearance of the crawlers secret. So when they were filming initially and revealed the crawlers, the cast didn't know what they looked like. So when they're screaming and running away, that is a legit reaction to these creepy ass crawlers. So I just really enjoyed that aspect of it. If you like Tomb Raider, kind of that adventure, strong female type movie, you are going to like this. The horror aspect is not a huge part of the movie. Yes, it's scary. Yes, you don't know whether they'll survive, but it's kind of more just strong female working the way through the cave. So yeah, I just enjoyed that movie. If you enjoyed As Above, So Below, That Happens Underground, Descent, you'll probably like as well. So the last movie I'm going to be talking about for this video is Eden Lake. So this movie came out in 2008, goes for 1 hour and 31 minutes, and it stars Michael Fassbender and Kelly Riley as the couple. So they're basically being traumatized by these children, and they never they never say the age of these children, but basically they are teenagers. It's a very basic story. They just want to go away and relax for a holiday. These kids are just being mongrels, and they decide to steal the car. This then escalates to kind of the children wanting to kill this couple, and this couple just wanting to get away. So basically in 35 minutes, it gets super intense. There is this torture scene that I was not expecting in the slightest. And considering it is kids that are doing this, it was pretty messed up. I have seen a few movies now where the kid has been doing the torture, where like the kids are the bad guys. So it's not like the first time I've seen this kind of stuff, but I was not expecting it to be as gory as it was. So it does get pretty intense within 35 minutes. Performances are sadly nothing special. I do really love Michael Fassbender. I enjoyed Kelly, but I've seen them in much better things since this movie was obviously done. This movie was done in 2008. Michael has definitely done better things. The director did a brilliant job with this film, and I've actually picked another one of his movies for the letter W, so he will come along once again. I obviously did enjoy his movies. So it's a dark concept just because it's basically the kids that are doing this. It is not a grown adult that are torturing this couple. It is children. And then when the children kind of refuse to do something, they are then tortured and bullied by their friends. Sorry. And it's just a little messed up mentality, because you know these things do actually happen in life. And they are also filming it, which we know is a common thing these days. With iPhones, it makes filming so much easier. And back in 2008, they're basically just using this little flip phone. So it's something that would be common to happen now. I feel like that's what adds to the scary factor of this movie. It's not your typical horror movie. There is no jump scares. There's no creepy music. There's just these young kids torturing this couple, and it does get gory. eventually the woman in the relationship, she does get revenge. And then it gets even more messed up because you're watching this woman basically murder children. And while you're kind of like, well, they deserve it, but at the same time, this is someone's kid you're killing. Like, it's just, it was a really weird emotional ride to go along in this story, in this movie. And then you get to the ending, and it is probably one of the most depressing endings I've seen in some movies. I know I was just saying The Descent was depressing, and it is because it leaves like you don't know what happened. But this one's even more depressing because you know what happens, and you just, like, you don't see it, but you can hear it. And I feel like that's what makes it worse. And it's just... yeah, I actually just watched this movie for the first time tonight, so I'm not sure whether it was a popular movie when it came out, but yeah, it was definitely very surprising to what I came across with this film. So that's to summarize my first video. I just talked about As Above, So Below, Bait, Crimson Lake, The Descent, and Eden Lake. So, Crimson Peak, sorry. Obviously, I've lost my mind a little bit. But let me know what you think of those movies down below. What is your favorite movie, starting with either A, B, C, D, or E? My next video, I'll be talking about the board game Subterra. So the reason I'm doing Subterra is because it's a really great kind of horror game, and also it's very similar to As Above, So Below and The Descent because they're underground. So I'm so smart. But thank you always for watching. I hope you enjoy these movies. If you decide to check them out, or if you've already seen them, let me know what you think. Anyways, thanks always for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite horror movie is.